Hi everybody, Mark Michaels here, and today I realize I have the best job in the world because I get to sit down with guys like Corey Cushing. How are you?
Hey buddy, good. Thanks for having me.
NRCHA $3 million rider, nobody else can say that. I mean, that's pretty special right there.
Yes,
four-time Open Snaffle Bit Futurity champion. And then you come out here and you're catch riding at the NCHA Futurity. How do you mix it all in?
Man, the opportunity is incredible to come here, and we're always wanting to keep on learning, and you can never learn enough. Time spent on a horse's back is never wasted, and so the opportunity to come out here with these guys, have the opportunity to ride these great horses, learn, listen. It's awesome. I love doing it.
Well, and I think, we've seen it both ways. We've seen some of the cutters come over there to the Cowhorse in recent years since you guys moved here to Fort Worth, and we're seeing quite a few of you guys coming over here. I mean, Clayton Edsel, Todd Bergen, Tyson Benson just showed this morning.
Yeah.
Lee Deacon's here. I mean, so there's quite Kaylee Wilson, Canadians.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. Well, let's just kind of go back in time a little bit. Let's start from the beginning. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Sandy, Utah, just outside of Salt Lake.
Was it on a ranch? Were you riding horses?
No, sir. Right up there in Sandy, just below the benches of all the ski resorts, Alta, Brighton, and all that. And we had about 10 acres there, and had a home, and a really nice home that Mom and Dad still live in, and a small barn out in the back. But grew up on Appaloosas, and rode Appaloosas for a long time. In the beginning, did the Appies, and then also did 4-H and all that stuff. And then as time went on, got to ride with Noel Skinner quite a bit, and he's like my second dad. And my mom had rode with him a lot when she was younger and doing the rodeo queen and stuff and whatnot. And so Noel was a huge inspiration to me. And that was back in an era where that one horse did numerous events, not like today where it's usually one horse just does one major event. So got to learn a lot. I was exposed to a lot of things when I was young, and it helped me to get to where I am today.
What made you take that transition, that step to dedicate more time towards the cow horse side of things?
Well, so, growing up, 12, 13 years old, going up there and riding with Noel, he'd take me to the reining futurity every year. My first reining mare, her name was Toulouse Lena, and Dick Pieper trained her. Doug Milholland ended up getting her later on, and then I think we got her when she was 5 or 6 years old. Went to the reining futurity and showed in the slate classes, the lazy, a bunch at home. That's where the reining really took off, in the very beginning. As time went on and, started, seeing all these, big guys, Todd Bergen, Bob Avila, John Slack, I mean, the list goes on and on, Tim McQuaid, Bob Loomis, got the opportunity to ride with all those guys. And, reining was my passion, what I wanted to do. When I graduated high school, I went down and started working for John Slack and Todd Bergen when they were partnered up there in Cave Creek. And that's when, back in the day when, Todd had Chick Please. And John, had Reggae Coyote, Dealin' Dirty, horses like that. And, so they were busy, getting into the cow horse and, doing a bunch of it. And, watching it and, seeing, all the different events that you got to do and working cattle. It was something that I had never done before. And so, just, ventured in with it a little bit, dabbled around with it. And then, as time went on, just kind of, a couple of years go by, and then, things go to change a little bit. I went on to work for Teddy Robinson, and we can go on, for another, another long story. But no, I've been very blessed to get where I am today, and couldn't be happier. Yeah.
Well, in 2007, that first Open Championship at the Stallion Stakes on CC Spin and Cycle. What did that mean to you? What did that do for your career?
So CC Spin Cycle was a very special horse to me. Kathy Corrigan Frank raised him and sent him to me his 2-year-old year. At that time I was over in Indio, California. I'd worked for John and Todd, went on to work for Teddy, and then Dave and Linda Durbano gave me that opportunity to train out of their facility there in Indio, which is right next to Palm Springs. And so he was like my first real cow horse, like something I felt that I could really have a shot on. I took him to the futurity the year before, and it didn't go very well. You get down in the dumps a little bit, but came back and kept on going, and talked about Noel. I'd come up from California, stopped there in Utah. Noel jumped in the truck with me, you know, kind of reversed the roles a little bit. He used to take me to shows. I stopped in and grabbed him, and up to Idaho we went. And he was with me during that first major win, and that was really special to have him there with me. And you know, with that win came a lot more confidence that I could do it, and I can hang with these guys. And so, yeah, I think back to those days a lot. Yeah.
Well, and then from then on, I mean, let's brag a little bit here. I mean, 4-time NRCHA Snaffle Bit Open Futurity champion. It all started back in 2012 with your first win. You also became the youngest rider at age 32 to be an NRCHA $1 Million rider.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Well, how did that feel?
Well, I knew I was getting close going there. You know, there's that thought that's on your mind. There's just getting your horses shown. You know, trying to make the finals. I had 4 great horses that year: CD Diamond, one time at band camp, Lena's last time, and Smoothie Cat. You know, I still remember them, and you know, I'll never forget. I felt like I'd already won the futurity when I made the finals on all 4.
Yeah.
You know, I'd made the open finals before, but it'd been hit and miss, and you know, or back then it was just a limited, and then the open, and so anyway, it was pretty exciting. You know, thinking back to that day that I showed CD Diamond, I mean, when I got done going down the fence, I knew it had gone really good, and I looked at Kristen and I said, hey, where does that, you know, put me? And she knew, but she didn't tell me. She goes, you just need to go get on your last horse. And I said, you know, yes, ma'am. And so I went and got, you know, showed my last horse, and she told me when I came out, and I think I was, you know, towards the end, and, you know, there was maybe a horse or 2 left. So pretty incredible day.
Well, I think that first million's obviously it's special, and we see that in the cutting too, and you know, and just Toston Peterson hit the $1 million mark last week at Outback Cutting, and just seeing the reaction, and seeing, you know, the reaction from the peers and the friends that have been around, you know, and watching you guys kind of work towards that goal, seeing you achieve that, and how special that is.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Well, then moving on to 2014, 2 years later, you come right back and did it. You won it again on Good Time. 2018, you won it on SJR Diamond Mist, and then you hit the $2 million mark.
Yes, sir.
So then fast forward to this year, 2023, you had five in the open finals, right? I don't know if that's been done before, but I hadn't seen it. But
one person of 2 other guys, heroes for sure, Greg Ward and Teddy Robinson have done it before.
That's a pretty impressive little list right there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So open finals, and you won it on Raise 'em High. Became the first ever NRCHA $3 million rider. Now you're in a league of your own. Now there's nobody. You're in uncharted territory right now. How does that? I mean, how does that kind of build your program? How does that compare?
Well, I mean, it's something that I hold very, very high. I take a lot of pride in it. I think, you know, the horses that have got me there, the customers that have trusted me, you know, making decisions and going down the road, and the success, you know, that it's brought to me. I mean, I can't thank everyone enough, but you know, my peers have played a huge part in all that. You know, I've got so many great friends, and you know, people that are willing to, you know, help me out or give me advice, or you know, my wife especially. You know, she's not afraid to tell me when I'm messing up or I need to do a better job. And so yeah, it's something that I'm very, very proud of, and you know, I'm going to ride the wave as long as I can. I feel great. I'm healthy, and you know, got a lot of, you know, with all these big horse shows coming up, you know, hopefully it can keep growing. Yeah.
Well, you definitely. I mean, you're in your prime right now, with as far as, you know, career-wise and with the horsepower you have, from what we're seeing. This win obviously a little different from the others, but they're all special. How did you guys celebrate this year?
Well, so we moved down here to Weatherford about 1.5 years ago, and last year after the futurity got over, we just had a fun after party, you know, and we had a bunch of friends come over, and it was just a good time. We barbecued and hung out and whatnot. And so before the futurity started, Kristen says, hey, you know, do you want to do it, you know, to have that barbecue again? And I said, well, yeah, that was fun, you know. Well, this is at the beginning of the futurity, before we're all tired and worn out and run down and whatnot. And you know, as, you know, people get to coming up and asking, you know, they all enjoyed themselves. And it was, you know, we enjoy throwing parties. We have them all the time. And, you know, we love, you know, just hanging out with our friends. And so anyway, you know, as we're getting down to the last couple of days, you know, people are talking about it. Kristen's like, you know, hey, you know, we're still doing this. I'm like, yep.
I'm just going to sit there. You're going to have to do it.
We're going to do it. Absolutely. And so anyway, you know, we were just planning on having all our friends over. Well, you know, that Saturday night happened, and you know, I was super awesome and exciting, and so it wasn't so much like a congratulations party. It was just more friends get together. I was out there cooking. Tyler was helping me barbecue. Todd Bergen was there. I mean, we had a huge crowd. I'll bet there was about 75 people there, and it was just so much fun just to have everyone there and the great camaraderie, and we were just laughing and enjoying each other. It was a great time.
Well, it's got to be, I mean, the futurity here is intense, but what you guys do there at Snaffle Bit with 3 events for that long and that many hours, I mean, you guys are riding all hours of the night. I mean, that's a whole next level.
Yes, sir. It will wear on a guy, but you know, when these people have offered me these great horses, and I know I've got a good chance on every single one I come here. I don't want to feel like I'm stepping into that pen, not ready. Or my horse isn't mentally ready. I know they're physically ready, but not mentally ready, and so the extra time, the extra care, the time spent on their back, like I said earlier, is never wasted. But it's the aftercare and before and after and so on.
Yeah. Is there a memorable moment that stands out? I mean, obviously there's so many with those wins, but is there something that really stands out to you through those wins?
Well, they're all very, very special. I mean, I could break down every single horse. I still remember them all very well. I do remember on SJR Diamond Mist, in the fence work, it was the second year that we had the futurity here in Fort Worth, and the cattle were tough, and they were very fast, and the crowd was electric. Okay, and so this black baldy comes out, and it starts eating on me, and I'm just, I'm trying to be cool, and I'm just staying with it, and it gives me a big hit on one side and stops me over here, and as we're going over there, I'm thinking in my mind, okay, it's time to go. Well, the judges blow the horn for a new cow. Well, I had seen numerous runs before there where guys had gotten new cows because they deserved them, but them horses would get tired. And they weren't able to finish the runs, and so I was in control. I felt good about it. They blew the horn, and I just kept on going. I made a good turn to the right, was maybe just a smidgen late coming out, and that cow kind of jumped out to the middle, and I looped him around and then come down and made an open field turn to the left, and then got up around it and got it circled. And at that moment when that adrenaline's running, your horse is there with you, and you're pushing and just trying to finish the pattern and make a good presentation of the pattern the whole way. It was awesome. It was so awesome.
Well, and that's what you brought up just then with the judges blowing the horn and wanting to give you a new cow, but then you go on. I've seen that. I've seen Boyd do it. I've seen multiple guys do it and go and make it work. And it's like from the minute that, and it's a split-second decision you've got to make to go or not go.
No, you can't think about it for 3 or 4 more strides and then pull up. You've got to pull up immediately.
And then, but it's like the intensity level in that arena from the crowd when that horn blows and they see you ain't pulling up. It's like everybody stops what they're doing and stands up and cheers, because it's like now you got everybody behind you.
Exactly.
So that's a whole different level.
The judges are questioning your decision. But they're also, they're also going to pay closer attention too, because well, if you're up for the challenge, okay, don't mess up. But go ahead.
Well, and I think that's one of the things. Just because if you do decide to stop and get the next cow, that's no guarantee that cow's going to be any better. And like you said, the more time you're taking, the more your horse is getting out of air.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they're dang sure have been rode and starting to wear down a little bit, especially when it comes time for the finals. I mean, and every moment being on them, being around them is I'm not going to call it wasted energy, but it's energy spent. Even if you're just walking and trotting around. I mean, and so, that plays a big part in my warm up and my routine and just making sure I've got enough horse to finish that day.
So this year at the Snaffle Bit Futurity, the finals, the fence work, Kaylee Wilson goes down hard.
Oh my gosh,
and
scary.
it was really scary there for a while. We weren't sure how bad it was. He eventually walked out of there. He came back and he showed another horse to all of our surprise, but we could tell he wasn't 100%, and I think he knew it, and that's when he realized that he was probably more hurt. Then Kelby Phillips jumps on and catch rides, which that's not something you see in a finals, even here, but I mean, it can happen. What did that do for all the mood for the guys back there behind the back gate?
Oh, we were all cheering him on, and I mean, I was out in the back, but I mean, you could hear the crowd just like if you were in the arena, you know, cheering him on. I mean, Kelby is exceptional as a rider, and knew what he needed to do, knew that horse was sitting good, and him and Kaylee worked really, really good together. And you know, I mean, he was just going to go out there, and whatever was dealt, he was going to handle, and you know, he knew what needed to happen, and you know, was just hoping his horse was going to be right there and make good decisions. And you know, I mean, he's awesome. I mean, I can't, you know, I'm sure Kaylee can't thank him enough.
Well, it was just a feel-good story for the whole deal, and luckily, you know, Kaylee's doing good. He's showing here. He's almost 100%. I talked to him the other day. He's feeling better. He's still not quite there, but he's getting there.
And them ribs take a little bit of time to heal up.
Yes, I think we can all speak from experience there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, you know, celebrating these great moments, what are some of the challenges you guys face? I mean, you've got 3 events that you have to get ready for. You've got to have your horse peak for that event each time you show during, you know, the 2-week period, 12-day period, whatever. What are some of the challenges you face getting a horse ready and at their highest level for all 3 events?
Well, to start off with, every horse is different, you know, and every horse, you know, is their own individual in a way that, you know, some take more, some take less, you know, some it's more mental than it is physical, you know. Benny Gatrone told me years and years ago that, you know, by the time summertime comes around, you're really not training anymore. You're just making sure that horse is ready for that day and what's about to happen. And so what I like to do is I like to, you know, my warm-up and what I'm going to do with that horse that day is how they can mentally prepare. You know, so if I'm going to do the cutting, the guys get on them, they're just going to trot them around and just, you know, just get them warmed up. And obviously with the setup of the arena and whatnot, they're going to read into the play and go from there. The reining, I'm going to go out there and lope some circles, you know, some collection and, you know, stop and turn, and, you know, there's no cattle involved. I try not to have any cows in there. And then the days of the fence work, you know, I might just lope around the whole arena, you know, and just right against the wall, stop and roll them into the wall, and make sure they're good and warmed up, and then, you know, just little tiny things that, you know, where they can kind of sense like, okay, this is about what to happen, and so that, you know, I can do a little bit of that, and then have them mentally ready, and I don't have to spend a lot of time wasting energy in the warm-up, if that makes sense, you know. So, you know, just the preparation is the biggest thing.
Well, and I think from what you're saying there, that kind of leads me to my next point is obviously having multiple finalists each year. There's a consistency factor there, and from what you just said, from the summer on, I think that's where that consistency factor starts. You start keep building on that foundation rather than trying to change direction or add new features.
No, I mean, you know, I say that the training part is over, but I mean, we're still training, but it's more building confidence and consistency in that horse. You know, I would rather know that I can go in there and mark a 72 in whatever event I'm doing, you know, at any day of the week, or at least try to, if the pattern or the presentation sets up right, the cattle are good or whatever, and, you know, let the judges decide after that, you know, how they want to mark, you know, with, you know, the degree of difficulty, how my horse worked, stuff like that. So anyway, you know, just consistency, a horse being confident in himself, you know, and yes, you know, there's training, and, you know, some days don't always go well, but I try to just bring it back to, this is what I need to do. Can I trot you around for a minute and go do a reining pattern? You know, can I trot you around for a minute and hold a cow, and your first 3 or 4 moves, you're very confident in yourself, this is what you're doing. And if you're, you know, cheating or, you know, not getting stopped or, you know, whatever the case may be, well, yeah, then we're going to touch up on it, but this is what we need to do every single day.
Well, and the other part of it is the reining patterns. You guys have different reining patterns, and you don't know until right before the show which one you're going to do. I mean, does that factor in? Do you have horses that are better at some reining patterns than others, and like when you see the draw and you see the pattern you're going to be doing, you go, oh shit, or like, oh hey, great, this is good? Or
well, no, not really. I mean, I think it's more, you know, when I know the pattern is I know what the pattern is. You know, if we're gonna lope in and do 2 large fast and a small slow, you know, or if it's gonna be a small slow and a large fast and then change. You know, yeah, maybe a day or 2 before I might kind of get my horse mentally ready. You know, because they've been thinking about so many other things. You know, but I make sure that I'm consistent in myself as far as, you know, this is how we're going to present this, or if it's a run-in pattern, hey, it's going to have to be strong and electric and be ready, but then bring yourself back down, and this is where we're going. You know, I change a lot as far as, like, you know, what I'm going to do that day. I try not, you know, I'm not going to go out there and lope circles this way, lope circles that way. I might go out there, and after my horses are warmed up, I might just start off by running and stopping. You know, change things up, and it's not so much change the way I'm going about my horse, but make sure that wherever I'm going, that they're mentally ready to, hey, he's holding his hand straight and you're running me down there, and if he says, well, I need to stop, you know, and then I might need to lope off, or you might do it, you know, and it changes day after day, you know.
Have you ever gone in there and run the wrong pattern? Forgotten which one you're supposed to run?
Yeah, sure enough. You know, just 2 years ago there at the Stallion Stakes, they got that really good yellow stud that San Juan owns, and did my circles, and I go running down there, and we were supposed to spin away from the judges, and I spun towards them, you know, and and I didn't even realize it at the time. And I remember after I got done turning around, Boyd Rice is walking up, this is at the South Point, he's walking up the alleyway there. I'm like, okay, because I'd seen him ride down when I walked in. Well, okay, and yeah, like you just kind of get that feeling like, oh, and then I thought about it, and then just, I thought, well, I better just keep showing. And so anyway, I finished my pattern, and I had a pretty good idea, and walked out. And anyway, you know, of course, no one's saying a whole lot, and I'm mad at myself, you know, because the horse did no wrong. And but I mean, shoot, thank goodness, you know, John and Brenda, they're, you know, so awesome, and the opportunities they've given me, and they understand. And all I could do is apologize. You know, it was nothing that the horse did; it was just my fault.
You're only human.
That's right. Yes, sir.
You're only human. So you've touched on it already a little bit, but let's talk about some of the mentors who really stood out to you back in the day, that really kind of encouraged you to keep going, and you know, and maybe gave you some tips that really changed the way your training style. Yeah,
so you know, we'll start off with Benny Gatrone, huge hero of mine, and every year before the Futurity, when it was in Reno, I'd always stop at his place. So I was in California, I'd go up to or Arizona, and I'd go up to Merced, and I'd stay at his place, well, at least 4 days before. And what was so neat about Benny is that he would never change my horses, but we'd always touch up on stuff, you know, or maybe it was just me holding my hands, you know, in a certain way. Or if one was, you know, causing a little bit of trouble, you know, he had such an incredible tack room, but it's not so much that we went in there to get something more aggressive. We went in there to got something that, you know, I could be smooth, and it would only help this horse and give him confidence without wearing him out. Benny knew what I needed. You know, he'd been there before, you know, lots of times. And so, you know, we might end up going to the round pen for a couple days, you know, but that my horse has always left there refreshed. I felt, you know, excited about going there. And, you know, it was awesome, you know, that way. And Don Murphy's been a huge inspiration to me. Todd Bergen, I get to ride with him every day. You know, now that we're both here in Weatherford, and John Slack, Noel Skinner, like I said earlier. I mean, you know, but Randy Paul, Jim Paul, I mean, all those guys. I mean, and anywhere I go, and even, you know, outside of the cow horse, Andre has been a huge help. You know, Bob Loomis, Doug Milholm from when I was back in the younger days, and then now stepping into the cutting. I've got multiple friends here that I can call on anytime, you know, Clint Allen, Don, Spud Sheehan, Grant Setnick. I mean, the list goes on, you know, and you know, what's so neat is just the great camaraderie. You know, I can call them anytime, they can call me, we're going to help each other out, or, you know, what would you do in this situation? And that's what, you know, I think really helps me just, you know, keep on growing, you know, because times change. And so, you know, you've got to be willing to change too. Yeah,
no, that's a true statement right there. What we've talked about, you know, some of the Futurity horses, some of the young horses that have impacted your career, and obviously CC Spin Cycle back in the day. But what are some of the other horses? Maybe some of the bridal horses, or world's greatest. I mean, you've had success on all levels here. What are some horses there that stand out to you?
Oh, I mean, one of my favorites that everyone can remember is old Hot Rod. You know, that horse, he was so powerful, and I'd have to say, like, he could put himself in, you know, positions that a lot of horse can't, but he would you'd feel at times that he would try to hurt himself to get him out, you know, and I didn't like doing that to him, but he would just try that hard for you.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be going down the fence or in the cutting, in the reining, you know, I mean, he could, you know, run and slide forever, and he just had such a presence to him. And you know, him, Smart Boone's, Sip and Boone's Farm is one that comes back to me. And then going way back, old Reminick Moonshine, Kylie Rice's old horse. You know, I mean, you know, those horses, you know, they leave you with something. You know, even I might not be riding them today, but they leave you with something, and they help you only make the next horse that much better.
Well, I was going to say, just from my experience, you know, whenever I did have the opportunity to ride a better horse, a good horse, you learn things from it, and I think it helps you with the other horses.
Absolutely. No, I mean, all of those horses that, you know, before, you know, today, I mean, I think back and, you know, what did I do with that horse? Was it, you know, I went about him this way, you know, do they have the same characteristics, or I messed up training him this way, and thank goodness he was just a really good horse, and so, you know, I'm gonna try not to make the same mistake twice. You know, I'm gonna go about him in this direction. So, you know, you never know. These horses will tell you a lot. You know, what they're comfortable with, what they're not, what they can handle, and so you know, you got to pay attention to that. I mean, you know, you got to listen to your horse as much as your horse needs to listen to you. Yeah.
The industry has changed a lot in recent years. The younger horse, the horse market is crazy right now. With NRCHA and the cow horse events coming down here to Fort Worth, and now we have the Western Bloodstock sales.
Yes.
And we're seeing a lot of crossover there. We're seeing a lot of these cutting horses, these cutting bred horses going into the cow horse, and vice versa. What are some of the things you look for when you're looking for a prospect and you come down here to Western Bloodstock at the Futurity sale or at the Snaffle Bit sale? What are you looking for in those 2-year-olds?
Well, for me, conformation is really a big thing. You know, I like a horse that's built uphill. You know, as far as you know, their neck doesn't fall down below their top line. You know, and because, you know, we spend so much time traveling, and especially going down the fence where it usually makes or breaks it. You know, I want that horse, you know, to be an easy traveler. You know, and travel really balanced. Of course, the big, you know, big hip, and, you know, balance through his girth area and whatnot, but. You know, just, I don't know, I mean, there's been times I've walked through the, you know, the sale barn there, and, you know, something's just kind of caught my eye. You know, as far as bloodlines, I mean, there's so many great bloodlines out there, and they're all their own individual. How many times have we seen full brothers and sisters not work out, you know, and so, you know, I really couldn't tell you. It's just kind of a fuzzy feeling I get, you know, if it's a 2-year-old and I get, you know, first of all, it's got to grab my attention, and as far as, you know, it's got to look the part when it's just out there in its own natural environment. And then, you know, if I get on and, you know, I get connected with it right off the bat, it's, I kind of compare it to buying a new pair of shoes, you know. If it don't fit when you first put them on, I don't want to go through this break-in period. You know, I'm not going to want to be on that horse, and so I'm going to try not to put myself into that position when it comes to buying a horse. Yeah.
Well, and I think if you look back at some of these horses we've talked about, and you think about what you just said about the conformation and the way they travel, you can connect the two right there with the horse you've had success on.
Yeah. Well, Raise Them High, perfect example. We customer Miss Janie Vatcher and Scott, they. Bought him as a yearling, and honestly, I was walking down the alleyway there, and he just happened to look over at me as I was walking by his stall, and, you know, I had to stop and go back and just kind of look at him, and moved him around in his stall, and I don't know, I hadn't seen him move, I didn't know how he was bred, but he just caught my attention. And anyway, I called Janie and said, "Hey, you know, you willing to take a chance on a yearling?" And she said, "Well, yeah, if you really like him." And so anyway, we ended up buying him, and you know, he is a horse that you got to pay a lot of attention to. You know, he's very quirky. There's some days you can't put boots on him, and it's just, you know, you just go without that day. You know, go out there and exercise him, kind of air him out a little bit, and you know, you can talk him into it, but you're not going to force it on him. No. So anyway, you know, just kind of a cool short story. But you know, other horses that you know, and I've had the opportunity to buy the high sellers, and you know, I'm not saying that they weren't really nice horses, but you never know how it's going to play out. You never know how they're going to train up, you know, and how the day is going to play out. You know, when it comes time to go to the show pen. So you know, that's just the best you can do is go off your best judgment, and you know.
Well, and I think your odds are better going with what you've just talked about, and having that good gut feeling, and going with what you believe in, what you're actually looking for, and not veering off from that. Then that's going to increase your odds of things working out.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Well, we've talked about a lot of success. There's a podcast that I used to listen to called From Poop to Gold, and what it was just a fun little podcast. But it talked. They interviewed entrepreneurs, successful athletes, and things like that, and talked about how they built up their careers and got to where they were. But they focused on a part during that time where things maybe weren't working out, or where there was some hardship, or you know, things just kind of, you were at a crossroads there, wondering whether you're going to continue down that road. Have you got some point in time that you can look back to that you say where you kind of doubted maybe where you were headed or what you were doing? And how did you get around that?
Yeah, definitely. You know, back when you know, we talked about CC Spin Cycle. You know, I mean, when I first went to work for Teddy, which was in 2001, you know, he offered me my first cow horse, old Rain and Cash, okay? And so I came onto the cow horse scene and made the limited finals on him, and things were building, and it was something that I wanted to, you know, adapt to my training program. I still had a bunch of reiners, you know, young, going out on my own, and reining was where I was headed. I was going to all the reining shows, but, you know, the cow horse was really starting to pull me that way. And so anyway, as time went on and I ended up doing, you know, more of the cow horse stuff, you know, for me it was challenging because I never worked cattle when I was younger. All I knew what to do with them is just rope them, you know. And so, you know, when I was working for John and Todd, got a little taste of it, was building up, but, you know, going to the fraternity, and, you know, CC Spin Cycle is a prime example. I go there and, you know, things just didn't go right, and the majority of the time it was in the herd work. And so, you know, you get to doubting yourself and questioning, you know, is this, you know, where I need to be? You know, I'm putting all this time and effort into it, and I just can't get things to work out. You know, and then come back and, you know, still stay grinding, and, you know, ask for a lot of help, and then come back and end up winning the stakes on him. You know, more recent, I win the Run for $1 Million on Hot Rod in 22, and with the qualifying this next year, and, you know, Hot Rod, he didn't have any more to prove to me, and, you know, some of these younger horses were coming up, and you know, I entered it in a few shows, and, you know, it just wasn't our day. It just wasn't our time, and, you know, they're not friendly get-togethers. You know, I mean, you know, they're intense, and there's no room for error, and, you know, and not that my horses fouled me anywhere, but it wasn't as good as the people that ended up getting qualified. And so it was tough for me to, you know, stand up there and watch, but I was also just as excited to cheer on my friends. You know, I sure hope I get the opportunity to go back. Qualifying's not over, but you know, we'll see how it plays out. But, you know, I mean, I tell myself, I listen to a lot of motivational stuff, and, you know, keep my chin up and keep trying, and you know, just kind of let the moment and, you know, where this horse is taking me, and, you know, where we need to go, just kind of lead me along the way.
So in 2017, the cow horse NRCHA moved the Snaffle Bit Futurity from Reno to Fort Worth. How have things evolved in recent years? Obviously, we've got the introduction now of the Run for $1 Million. We've got the American Performance Horseman.
Yes, sir.
How have things changed for the cow horse industry?
You know what? It is on such an uprise. You know, the membership has gone way up. You know, I think being out here just to where it's more centrally located and more people can see it, you know, is really what has lifted it up. And it's getting tougher every single year, and the entries are growing. Well, with that, you know, we can you know, get more money to put back into these shows, to where, you know, there's more of a desire for people to come and dabble with it a little bit. You know, I mean, like you were talking earlier, I mean, there's been guys that have, you know, come over from the cow horse side, or excuse me, from the cutting side, and you know, just, you know, look at it, oh, this would be fun to do. Well, they're about halfway through the year, and they're like, well, my goodness, it's a lot of work. You know, and so they've got a real, you know, big respect for us, and so, I mean, there's it it's building every single year. There's so much excitement. You know, the World's Greatest is so electric, and there's so much energy, and it's the shows that we're putting on and the horsepower that's underneath us, I think, is what people, you know, is really drawing people to it and wanting to be part of it.
Well, and it is so elite. I mean, you think about the bridal horses and these older horses, and I hear it on you know, from other guys and on podcasts and whatever. They're getting harder and harder to find.
Yes.
I mean, it takes a special horse to go through, from a young horse, go through the, you know, the Derby and stakes and all that,
yes,
and get to that bridal stage and get to the World's Greatest where they can go compete at these events at that top level.
Yes.
I think it you know, it's not just anybody can go buy one and come and compete.
No, I mean, well, I mean, you can, but to feel like you got a shot, you know,
yeah.
I mean, and we're all after that, you know, ultimate bridal horse.
Sure.
I mean, that is, you know, that is what we're all after, and whether we're buying it as a yearling or, for me anyway, when I go and, you know, I'm looking at, you know, younger horses, but you know, it's a tough road. We call on these horses a lot, you know. Some of them can mentally handle it, others can't, and some just, you know, are nice horses, but you don't really, you know, look at that horse as being, you know, a great bridal horse in the end, you know, for whatever reason. But you know, I mean, that's our hopes and dreams of it, and when you do finally get the opportunity to put one together, and the, you know, the customer is patient and lets you take them down this trail, I mean, you know, I feel like it's my job to make sure I just do the best I can, whether we win or we lose. But you know, when you get to that point, you know, you're there and really enjoying the ride. Prepping for the World's Greatest is one of my favorite times of the year, because I'm obviously on a horse that I've got a lot of faith in, and it's not so much that I've got to make him better in any event. I just want to, you know, make sure that he's mentally, physically ready, and because you know, and myself, when I got to catch that steer for, you know, $100,000 now, and so anyway. Yeah.
Well, and that's, you know, from the outside looking in, when I'm around there with the World's Greatest and seeing you guys there, you're all looking a lot more relaxed because you've got so much faith in that horse you're riding.
Yes.
And there's a lot of camaraderie that goes on there, and it's more like, oh, that was nice. Here, hold my beer, watch this. Yeah. You know, and it's that kind of level, that kind of mentality that I think makes that event so great, because it does get intense, obviously, for the finals.
Yes.
But the prelims, the warm-ups, and leading up to it, I think is so cool to see, because you guys are riding the best what this industry can produce.
Absolutely, absolutely, and everyone's got a shot. I mean, you know, we started off, you know, years ago when they first started having it there at the Lazy, and I want to say that there was anywhere between 25 and 30, and that number had dived off, and then it's picked back up. I think last year there was 78 horses in it, you know,
and 55 or 60 the year before. So
yeah,
I mean,
exactly. It's growing, and now we got the youth involved, and that is, you know, I think where the majority of the crowd comes for is to watch those youth, because they are so tough. But it's so neat that, you know, we've got such a great, you know, youth group. I don't mean to get off subject here, but it only helps it grow, you know, and all these kids, you know, just love spending time on the horses.
Well, and I think I'm glad you brought it up, because your wife Kristen is heavily involved with the kids and with the peewees and with the lead line stuff. I mean, when you guys have that, you guys put a lot of focus on the kids during your major events.
Yes.
And we see you're dressed up in the duck hunt. You and Clayton down there.
You need any ducks? I got them at my house right now. I still got them at my house.
Special deal on ducks. Yeah.
Got it.
But they've been worked a few times.
Yeah, just a couple, but they'll be okay.
But just seeing what NRCHA does, and especially your wife and yourself, and bringing the kids in, because that is the future of the sport.
Absolutely. No, she that is something that her and Chelsea Edsel and I know I'm forgetting other names.
There's
Bailey Carter,
them,
who's, you know, head of the youth committee. I mean, there's a lot of time and thought that goes into it. But I'll speak for Kristen. I mean, she truly loves it. You know, there's times where I get really frustrated, just like when I had to load up all the ducks, you know, the day before the finals started, and I'm in there catching all these ducks. I'm like, of all the places I need to be right now, I'm in this stall trying to gather up all these ducks because we got to take them all.
Yeah, exactly. Get him in there.
Exactly. Where's Andrea? He was in here earlier, you know. But anyway, no, you know, it's something that she loves doing, and you know, when it's finally all put together and all them kids are in there having fun, I mean, they look forward to all the activities, and you know, it only makes it, you know, this sport grow, and you know, keep it to what it is, for sure. Yeah.
Well, let's fast forward now. The American Performance Horsemen had their first event this year, and you were lucky enough to qualify there and show there. This year, you were right before the Snaffle Bit finals. You weren't even in the top 10. Like, I'm like, where's Corey in this deal? And he's not there. Yeah. You go win, and you jump yourself up into the standings now. You're second in the standings going into the American Performance Horseman. What does an event like that do for you? And what did you learn? What did you experience there last year or this year? And what are you looking forward to next year?
Well, so my Derby years this year, wasn't the best. My horses, all gave good efforts, but just for the money that's out there these days, it just wasn't wasn't building like I was hoping it would. Coming to the Futurity, I want to say I was sitting about 12th or 13th, and knew that if it could be a good Futurity, I'd have a shot, But we weren't just looking at the Futurity. Some of the Futurities after the Futurity, as we saw, made a big difference, and the guys that ended up getting qualified, and so anyway, it was on my mind, but I try not to think about it too much. My job was be here in this moment, concentrate on these Futurity horses, let it play out however it's going to play out. I'm very fortunate and proud of myself and my horses, and I'm happy to be sitting where I'm at to get another shot at it, because when you get to step down into that arena there in Globe Life, and where you've never been in a setting like that, and have the opportunity to show what these horses have to offer, underneath the lights and the crowd, and whatever television show is producing it, and it's something to really be proud of,
Well, it's a whole new level of exposure for not just you as a professional, but for the sport.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
Yeah. What goes into deciding? I know you didn't get to show the horses you really wanted to show this year. What's your game plan? Have you started thinking about a horse that you've kind of got in mind, or a couple? My black stud, he's a dual bet that Teton owns. We got him back, got him healthy. During the finals of the World's Greatest, he had overreached and just kind of bumped his tendon there, and that horse has been sound his whole life, and so we wanted to get him healthy and wasn't going to put him in a situation like that. And he was tired coming off the World's Greatest. Coming to this year, he's back, he's healthy. And then, but I've got another horse that I spent this year in the 2-rein on, Talking Diamonds, SJR Talking Diamonds. That horse, is very pretty, and he can do the reining really well. He can go down the fence, extremely well. And so, those are two that are hanging up there. But we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, I really haven't made up my mind yet. It's which horse is the most healthy, that can handle that environment, and that I've got a lot of confidence in at that time. Yeah, well, that event is something special. I mean, for those of us that were there this year and just seeing that, I mean, it was a whole new stage, a whole new level that this sport was being exposed to, and the cutting as well, and the reining. Yeah. And if you haven't had the opportunity to go, you sure want to go check it out, and it's coming up in March next year, and go to AmericanRodeo.com to check that out, get your tickets. But what about, I mean, obviously you've transformed into that stage where you've become a role model for others. You're becoming a mentor for others. What is some of the advice that you give to some of the young up-and-coming trainers?
So, the best advice I can give is, match yourself up with someone that you really look up to, that you really idolize. But when you get there, don't wear yourself and them out with questions. You can learn so much by just sitting back and just watching, paying attention to, how that guy's working, or, the direction that he's given maybe to his non-pros, or something like that. You can learn a lot by watching that way. Make sure it's something that, you get a good feel from, you've got a good rhythm, you've got a good flow with. It's you can feel yourself advancing, and along the way, make sure you're truly enjoying it, because if you're not, this probably isn't something that you need to be doing, because there is countless hours that is involved with it, as we all know.
It's not all fun. It's not all bright lights.
Yeah, it's a lot of people see the victories that are out there and whatnot, but there's as we talked earlier, there's a lot of defeats too, and so a guy can really run himself down, and so make sure it's something that you're truly dedicated to, and you want to stay involved with your whole life, and it is your whole life without taking you away from your family.
Well, I think comparing it like what you said with the mentors about not asking too many questions and watching, I think you know, kind of compare it to like reading a book. You've got to read the whole book to get the full picture. Yeah. You can't just go to ChatGPT and say, give me the 10 best points about this book and say, now I'm a horse trainer.
Yeah,
you know, why aren't I winning?
Yeah, right.
You know, because there's a lot of the stuff in between that I think there is no answer for. It's just watching to see things, and there's not always an explanation for what he's doing. You have to watch and see it.
Yeah, well, and two, I mean, you know, everyone comes with, you know, a different feel, you know, for the horse, you know, and you might see, you know, someone that you're looking up to going about a horse this way, but that doesn't mean that this horse, you know, that your next horse needs the same thing.
Yeah.
It was happening to this horse in this moment, and, you know, this horse may need something completely different, and you got to understand that.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, I want to bring something up. I was sitting up there in cattle boxes with Jesse Lennox the other day, watching a herd, and we're sitting there talking. I told him I was going to talk to you, and he says, man, he says, and you just got to picture Jesse saying this. I'm not going to convey it quite right, but he says, man, he says, when I started watching the cow horse events a couple of years ago, he said, there was this guy that would walk into the arena, no matter whether it was the reining, the herd work, or the fence work. As soon as they put the camera on him and he was walking in the arena, he stood out and he caught my eye because of his presence in the arena coming in. He said he was so professional, so confident, and there was no fidgeting, no adjusting, no looking around, no last minute orders. He said it was just 100% focus and presence. How do you make that work?
You know, I learned a long time ago that you know, when I step into that pen, and still something I think about today, is that I want to put on the best presentation that I can. You know, I mean, you know, there's times that, you know, that maybe, you know, the situation isn't working out and the horse isn't cooperating, but you know,
you got to sell it.
Yeah, you still got to sell it, and the judge can't see that. Yeah. You know, unless it goes really south, but. You know, that's, you know, every time I step into the pen, no matter what event it is, I just want to make sure that, I mean, yeah, I might be there guiding and doing something with my hands, but I want to make sure that they can't see that, you know, but that's something that I've also got to work on too. I mean, yeah, my horses could work better if, you know, I'm doing this or doing that, but you're telling on yourself, you know, that, well, this ain't right, or he wants it to be better. You know, if I can step in there and, you know, have a good composure to myself, and, you know, that horse has got a good look to him, you know, you're going to enjoy watching that. Yeah. And so, you know, I'd be lying if I say I'm not, you know, nervous.
Just do a better job of hiding it.
I wouldn't say every single time, but you know, the reason I get nervous is because I want to do good, you know, and so you know, but by also doing that, don't tell on yourself either. You know?
Well, and I think that's something, you know, we've got guys in the cutting like Lloyd Cox. I mean, he's the master at it. He's got ice running through his veins. That's what everybody says, right? And from the minute he crosses in front of the judges' stands, it's all show and it's all presentation. It's the same thing, I think. And I think that's a big part, because then your horses get more confident because you're not jacking with them going down there. They're not feeling you being, you know, nervous. And I think it's like it relaxes the horse. I would think it does.
Yeah, no, for sure. You know, and your horse can grow off of that too. Yeah. You know, I mean, we've got I've had some horses that, you know, just by me taking them to the show pen, they actually operate better in the show pen in certain areas than what the practice pen feels like, because, you know, maybe in the practice pen they get the question, and, you know, is he going to fix this or is he going to do that, where you know, that show horse, we talked about the bridal horses, when you get down to it, you know, like they know that, you know, they're going to run their circles, and, you know, whether it be the changing of leads or just running down there and stopping, not, you know, which you have to, you know, as far as training and, you know, making your horse do, you know, operate that maneuver the correct way. But, you know, when you oh shoot, I just lost my train of thought.
But the confidence that you get from
just the confidence that you can develop in your horse and yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I think that's a big key to it. Do you have any rituals you do before you get ready to show? Any kind of, you know, superstitious things, or?
Oh, you know, I don't like changing things up, you know. So like if I showed that, you know, I know, let's just talk about the saddles. Yeah. If I you know, worked that horse in that saddle the night before and everything was good, and I'm going to use it that saddle. You know, if I will say though that if my day starts off and I'm wearing a certain shirt or a certain pad,
we've all done
and
that.
It doesn't go, it's out. You know, silly things like that. I don't like changing things once the rhythm and the flow get going. You know, I try not to change up my warm-up process if it's going the right way. I mean, yeah, there might be an adjustment here, but you know, I try to keep everything the same if there's a good flow going. If it's not going, then oh yeah, we're definitely going a different direction. Yeah, something's got to change.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Yeah. So with all these new events as well, it also makes you go down the road more. You're going to have to go compete more to qualify, or have more chances to qualify for these bigger, higher paying shows. How do you balance the training side, keeping those younger horses going, 2-year-olds, and keeping the older horses going, and still while being on the road and you know, doing that part as well?
You know, I've been blessed to have you know, great assistants now and in the past, and you know, you got to have a good rhythm when you leave, and you know, for me, it's, you know, sometimes, you know, time off for these horses, you know, is good, or are they just getting loped, or they're just getting exercised, and just kind of let their brain settle down and settle in a little bit. You know, I'll admit that if I could change anything, you know, I wish that you know, maybe my 2-year-olds were just a little bit more advanced. But you know, like you said earlier, I've usually having to take 2 or 3 guys with me every time, and you know, leaving one guy behind. But when he's home, you know, taking care of, you know, 25, 30 head that got left behind, you know, he doesn't have a whole lot of time just to spend on one horse, and so, you know, it's okay when I get home and things aren't just right. It'll come back around, you know. Do my best to try to, you know, have things in order for when I, you know, if I'm going to have to turn around and go to the next show, well, then obviously that horse is going to go with me, or, you know, there's some sort of game plan, you know. And if I just know where I'm headed, what's coming up, you know, do I need to start prepping now, or, you know, can it wait for a little bit? You know, it just, I don't know, I usually come up with it just before I get ready to leave, you know, but know it's coming too.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, one of the biggest decisions that you've probably had to make in recent years is you had the opportunity to come down here to Texas to come work for Teton Ridge, an amazing opportunity.
Yes.
But you were at the top of your game in Arizona. You've got everything flowing. You've got horses out the yazoo. Talk a little bit about what went into that decision and making that move down here.
Well, so one of the biggest things was just the opportunity. I mean, things were fantastic, you know, out there in Arizona, like you just said, but the opportunity to, you know, change as far as, you know, keep growing. You know, I wanted things to keep, you know, evolving, and you know, one day, you know, hopefully have a place of my own, you know, but honestly, I couldn't afford anything out there in Arizona. You know, Texas has always been a place that you know, I look forward to going to. We have so many major events here. You know, the opportunity that Teton offered me, and buying that gorgeous piece of property, and the facility they built, and the cattle supply, and I mean, there's numerous things. You know, we met a lot of great friends, and yeah, it was, you know, we talked, you know, a lot about it, but just felt it was, you know, the best thing for us at that time. You know, we're so happy being here, and you know, get the opportunities like this, you know, to slip in here for the day, but you know, leave here in a little bit and go have Thanksgiving lunch with the kids, you know, at school. So you know, just things like that, you know, is probably the biggest thing, and like I said, hopefully having a place of my own one day. Yeah.
Well, obviously with the support of Kristen and you know, and the kids, and having that behind you coming down here, that had to help.
Yes, very much. Yes, very much. Yeah, the kids love it here, and I know Kristen does too. So
yeah. Let's talk about the legend of Corey Cushing. What kind of legacy do you see yourself leaving, or how do you want to be remembered when we get to that stage down the road? I mean, you've talked about the Benny Gatrons and some of these guys. What is your legacy? What does that look like?
You know, I just honestly, I just want to, you know, one day when I do decide to hang up my shaps or slow down, I just want people to honestly remember me, that I'm willing to help out anyone. You know, he was you know, he was always professional, and whether he inside and outside the show pen, you know, the horses that he did ride, you know, whether they made it or not, you know, that a person, you know, whether it be the owner or they went on to a different trainer, that, you know, that they could get along with that horse, that they enjoyed the time that was spent on that horse. Things like that, you know, and just that, you know, he was just honestly just a fun guy to have around.
Well, and I think that's one thing that we can say about you, whether it's win or lose, whether you things didn't go your way, you're pretty balanced. Yeah. You're not the highs, the lows. I mean, so you might have to give you a little bit of distance just for a few minutes when you come out of that arena. But I think,
as the old saying goes, you got about 45 minutes to just kind of calm down.
You got to have a short memory.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Have quite a few talks with self. Yeah.
Come to Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Corey, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. I know this has gone on a little long, but we had so much to talk about, and I really appreciate you stopping by. Learned so much today, and can't wait to see where this all goes. And good luck next year.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Be sure to check out AmericanRodeo.com. Get your tickets for the American Performance Horseman. Watch this guy go down the fence.